Hi, let's talk about some of the procedures for VPS assignment. What are the elements of this assignment? I'm going to assume your VPS is up and running. I have a previous video on that. I'm going to assume that in that video you noticed I was using status.vatsim.net. Watch the original VPS orientation video to understand why I'm even using VATSIM. The entire premise of my project idea is explicated there. No need to reiterate here further. We need to see that you have the ability to copy and paste out of that current data file. For that, we're going to work with Excel and phpMyAdmin, which is the #1 feature in addition to the underlying MySQL database of you standing up your VPS. VPS up and running. Do you have your IP address? Let's look. Here's mine. I set this up in front of you last time. I would have to go off and work with domains and DNS to put a domain name on here. Presently, it's not necessary. There's my IP address. You can even see a handy dandy copy comes up. Why do I need this? I need to get to the phpMyAdmin installed on it. You can see the default landing page does not have it. You go in as admin in the way this works, so I fumbled through that before you previously. Whoops. I think in this case. All right. Let me try one more time. It was my understanding I had changed this. Okay, perfect. Hold that thought. Where can this password be obtained? For this, we're going to have to come to the other part of the story using PuTTY, which I showed in the previous video. One trick I'll show you. Of course, I'm going to change the appearance here. Every time you log in here, I would recommend you do the following. Sudo apt-get apt-get update $ampersand sudo, which means super user do, apt get upgrade. This will just make sure that things are fresh every time you get in here. Just like Windows or Mac will occasionally say, hey, you need to update me. And look, there's some updates. Of course, unless you intend to keep on running this after the class, you don't need to overinvest in it. But nonetheless, it's a habit. So, why am I in here? When you read the instructions about the one-click install for MySQL, they make it clear that the password is included in a file, but it's a file under root. How can it become root? See su dash? Now, all this predicates that you've done this initial server steps that I alluded to in the previous video. su dash will let you become root. You're going to need that password too. You see how it says root? Now, if I say ls, which means list, it'll look like there's nothing in your directory. If I say ls-lah or ll, I guess ll doesn't work on this. Forget it. Do lah. L means list, A means everything, and H means when you have sizes for files, show them in human readable terms, which is kilobytes, megabytes, things of that nature. Gigabytes. Do you see where it says DigitalOcean password? That's where your password is. How can I see that? Well, I'm going to show Python history because I actually really shouldn't record a video that has this password on it. So you see how I say more Python history? It'll show the contents dot more dot profile. It'll show the profile contents. So if you want to see the password contents, and it's going to say something like admin. So, oh, the heck with it. Let's just show it. More DigitalOcean password. And you can see admin MySQL pass. Pull that off to the side. Come back here. Now you can change this. You can even change it inside PHP myadmin. Boom. Don't worry about that blowfish secret thing. Ideally, I should save this. I think I will. That way I don't have to play that game anymore. What do we have here? So this is PHP myadmin. This is what you get out of having your one-click install. Which of the requirements does this let us check on? You need your IP address. You've done this. We should console. And I should add in login to IP address PHP myadmin. Great. We've done that. What about VATSIM data? This is the file that they provided so that third-party software developers, and this is just a bunch of hobbyists, it's a nonprofit organization, can write scripts or programs that read this data. One example of such a script or program is this VATtastic that I showed you. Or, as I indicated before, it just shows who's out there, who's flying around, having a good time, enjoying their hobby. Look, there's Amarillo, which is the closest large city to WT. Great. Pardon me. So, what's that have to do with this? Well, although later on we'll see how we can write scripts to get at this, you're interested in this file. That's part of what the assignment asks you to work with. Let's have a look at that file. It's automatically created. It's automatically created every 2 minutes. You can tell how fresh it is based on this update value. My script reads that update value. So you're going to want that too. There's 445 people out there. So what are we interested in? Can you pick up the URL from status.vatsim.net? Yes, you saw me do it. Can you go and get that file? Yes, I just did that. Can you obtain the data? Sure. What data? What's driving the rendering of all these people, not the map, but these little images, and actually every airport image as well. What's driving all of that is the refresh of that data file every 2 minutes. That's pretty frequent. That gives us half a day's worth of data where we can see exactly what people are doing. And that lets me ask my business intelligence question. Where are the gaps in this market so that I can exploit them and make some money for myself? Like any good hobby, these people spend money. So, just reminding you of the premise. Great. Now, all the clients are in this client section. Let's go find it. It says bang or exclamation point clients. Here they are. Bang clients. Boy, what is all that? It looks like some gibberish. In some cases, the Unicode characters don't come across well, so it really does look like gibberish. It's a lot of people. It's 445 entries. And then we get off to the servers. Now later we'll write a script for that. But from the end here all the way back up to the beginning of clients, that's our data. And at least 5 different times for this assignment, you're expected to grab this data. And maybe, excuse me, you might want to put it off in a separate file, which is what my program does. The Python scripts I'll share with you later. But to put it into Excel, this is going to be necessary. So I'm going to go off and put it into Excel, right where all the stuff from the class is, which I've been doing several times previously. That sim data 0624. Forget that. 2019 0624. Great. That satisfies obtaining the data. Excel. Let's import it. We did this before. Here's Excel. Data. That's just a shortcut. Get data and from text CSV. Let me go to where I store everything for the class. It's because I didn't give it an extension. Not necessary. So, right away, this is pretty crafty. In fact, frankly, a lot craftier than the get data. This from text /CSV, and this is the most recent version of Excel. It's through the same subscription service as how you get it. Office 365, at least I assume you get it that way because it's available to you as students. Pretty slick though. Really picked up on delimiting everything. Now you could do a transform and switch some of these fields, but that's okay. So it already figured out that the colon was correct. So let's load it up into here. Now immediately, one potential weakness to this is that each of these columns are on because it's actually set up to have a filter right away. So if I grab everything in here, copy it, come into sheet 1, and then paste values, it'll come in here without that column, and then I can kill that top column. There are other ways to do it. I just find that to be the most expedient. So again, if I, Control Z, delete that sheet, data, from text CSV, You probably would have saved it correctly. It's good. Load it. You notice that you can't get rid of that. It's because it's actually there because it's got a query. It's got filtering turned on. Problem is if you delete it, it's going to try to delete everything. So, simplest way, Control A, Control C. Sheet 1. Click into cell A1. Right click. Paste values. Highlight row 1. Delete. Good. Do you want to save this? Yes. I'll call it VATSIM data 2019 0624. I'm asking you to do one of these a day. Why I'm asking you to do one of these a day? I don't want you to do them back to back, minute after minute. We want variety of data. In fact, the whole reason we want to automatically collect this, what about those times of the day where maybe other people in the globe are up and active and other people are asleep? Just doing it after dinner when it's convenient for you isn't going to get the best picture. Therefore, I think you'd be best off doing it at various times as well. But in the future, the scripts will do that for us. So we're okay for now. Save that. I'll minimize it because I'm going to come back. Can I import? Yes. What if I just want a subset of this data? What if I want the call sign and the ID here, which I can actually use as a unique ID, and their name and pilot? And what if I just want those? Let's take those first 4. I'm going to copy that, make a new sheet, paste values. So, what if I want to export this? What's a way to do it? Well, there's a couple different ways. The issue here is that if I were to export this whole sheet right now by doing a save as, and then we'll say CSV, one of the issues would be we can't have a workbook that has multiple sheets. To save only the active sheet, click OK. To save all sheets, click them individually. Good, that's what we want. The active sheet. Perfect. Let's go off and look at that. The difference here, and of course, as I've told you, my videos are in Windows. It says that it's a Microsoft Excel comma separated values file. Let's open it up with an editor. Great. It has their call sign, their ID on the network, their name, and whether they're a pilot or not. That's a good start. However, you need to do all 40 or 41 records, so you can't just stop there. Realize then, for the expedience of this demonstration, I'm just showing a subset. VATSIM data. So, what you need to do is, let's go to this last part. phpMyAdmin. Verifying that we did import, export, and instead of showing you how to clear the filter, I just showed you how to copy paste your way out of it. One of the reasons is, by the way, so I don't oversimplify it, when you actually get data from the text CSV, it's actually considered that you're just plugged into the file and you're actually doing a connection to it. So by copying it over to another sheet, particularly after you've done some of your filtering, that's conceptually actually what's going on. So we're not really clearing the filter. Okay. Last, phpMyAdmin, create database. Great, let's do it. Create database. Let's call it VATSIMData2. Quite simply just for the demonstration. Create it. Let's create a table. VATSIM client data 2. Whoops. VATSIM client data 2. How many columns do we need? Let's see. One for the call sign, one for the ID, one for the name, one for the client type. We can keep the 4. Go. What kind of data is this? Well, let's review. Our job then is to create a schema and data type selection. And there's a review of that here, which I have available. In MySQL and in SQL in general, varchar means a variable number of characters up to but not to exceed a size from 0 to 65,535, which is 2 raised to the 16. Or binary, or blobs, or text, or all this. We can get away with varchar, and then you can kind of decide how big you think they are. I might recommend 255. It's highly wasteful, but it'll get the job done. Okay. Let's go back and try that. What's the name of these fields? It says right here. Call sign, CID, real name, client type. Good. Put that somewhere you can remember it. You've already imported the data, so you should be fine. I'm going to replace these colons with commas. So call sign, CID, real name, client type. Call sign $255. CID. Now here's a choice you can make. You probably do want something that is an index, a primary key. You probably don't want to allow nulls in it. So allowing nulls is where you check this box. Real name. Varchar 255. Now, eventually you know something about the nature of your data. Does anybody really have a name 255 characters long? Is 100 sufficient? How big are these IDs anyway? Or even these call signs? And then what different permitted values are here in the pilot and that type? There's an ATC. So I don't want to be too silly. You should probably think through how much should it store. So if I say varchar, the client type, well, certainly 25 is probably safe. In real name, 100 is safe. And their CID, well, that's probably never going to be than 10 digits long, but we can say 25 just to be careful there. Same thing with a call sign. Later on, setting up this primary key be important. If you did it or did not do it this time, things will be okay. Let's save that up. It says here, We have a primary key of CID. Can't allow nulls there. We'll allow nulls everywhere else. The primary key can never be null because it uniquely identifies the record. Great. Let me get rid of that data. I probably shouldn't have been writing in my data file. Oh, I know what's going on. It's pretty much upset because I have it open elsewhere. I have it open. But that's okay. Okay. Import. You've watched me stumble through this before. SQL CSV using load data. Use local keyword. Columns separated with commas. Columns are not enclosed with anything, and they're not escaped with anything. Data file. It's this CSV file here. So what are some of the reasons this could potentially fail? Largely, it might have to do with like strange characters being in the data. And so here, it says there's a duplicate key. So that's another real issue you're going to run into. Now, this is okay. Unlike a previous video, I'm not surprised here. It's possible for some of these people to be logged in more than once. And this is a good example right here. Michael is providing both pilot information and he's also providing automated information. So what's one way we could take care of this so that we only had pilots who can't be logged in twice? Because I'm interested in planes and pilots. So let's go back and let's do a filter. And let's filter so that only pilots show. Okay, good. Then let's grab all columns, checking to see that only pilots are showing. Perfect. Go off to another tab, paste in values. Now this is only pilots. And what's good about that is now we won't have the duplicate people. So let's go ahead and save as CSV. And I'll call this pilots. Perfect. Let's go back to the failed. Well, first of all, I'll open up in that text editor. Close that guy. Let's open up the one that's just pilots. Okay, perfect. Let's go back to import. Load data, CSV using load data, separated by comma, no enclosure, no escape, use local keyword, choose file, pilots. And this, by the way, is indirectly what I meant by filters. So I should also say using filters as well. Okay, good. Do I have the pilots file set to UTF-8? Columns are enclosed with nothing. Comma separation, go. So, interestingly enough, this pilot is in here twice, which is actually a rule break. But that's an interesting part of how primary keys work. Now, when we do this through the scripts, we won't rely on the data for this reason. So the reason that you sometimes want to make a whole separate primary key is you can't rely on downstream software to actually respect the rules. This person shouldn't be in there twice, but they are. Right there. So, as a result, let's do this to make things workable for now. Let's go to the structure. Let's change this so that it's not the primary key. Let's go back here a second. And let's change it. So that it's not going to be, here we are. Duh. I'm sorry. It's right here. It's the indices, right? Let's drop it to be the primary key. My mistake. It was right down there. Did you see it? Rewind the video. So I dropped the primary key from CID. Now the need for that to be unique is gone. Let's go ahead and go back to import. Pick pilots. We still want the pilots anyway, so I'm not going to back out of that modification. Get rid of these delimiters. Use local. All looks well. So now it picked up 381 rows because I didn't have to play around with the key. But that is an important lesson, and when we move on and I show you how I've structured this and we move on to the Python scripts, you'll see that I actually create a whole separate index value for primary key that's independent of the data for these very reasons. But now you can see the data. Now be careful though. What I would tell you is, ooh, look, at least one ETC found its way in. So I might, that filter, a copy paste out of the filter might not have worked well. But basically you have a bunch of data in here now, several pages worth. So if you collect several times a day, you can imagine what this is like as once we turn the script out loose on it. The call sign's not a reliable ID. The CID should have been a reliable ID, but it was in there twice, so forth and so on. So when you do this yourself, though, let me stress this. You don't have the luxury of an abbreviated schema. You need to make a column, or a field rather, for each and every one of these. Don't forget they're separated by colons, because that's how the data is going to be read out of here. So you do that 5 different times, at least a couple different ways a day. It's a matter of just sitting down and doing this. Then in your database, I'll have that information. Okay, there's no need to prolong this any further. I think we've hit all of our goals. Hopefully this will help you get through this assignment. Take care.